I've never really heard of somebody having 4.
I've had the pleasure of having 4 once, but dude, I felt like I was dying. Which, funny enough, what does orgasm mean? Little death. So I would say if I can describe for myself what energy orgasm was, it was the little death that never ended.
Was the third one, so 2 is normal, was the third one pleasurable?
Third one was not pleasurable, actually.
So, but yet you pushed yourself to have a 4th one?
I wanted to find out what were my limits.
But your limits on what? Your limits on pleasure? Because apparently you'd already reached your limits on pleasure.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it really sound that pleasurable. Isn't the whole idea of an orgasm for it to be pleasurable?
Yes, and I want to go past my limits. You know that urge to go beyond your limits.
So basically, you intentionally set out with your partner, and your whole.
No, it was myself. I wasn't.
You was masturbating.
I forgot to leave that.
Oh.
I forgot to leave that out.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, welcome to a new episode of Windhart. My name is Ryan Windhart, and this is actually
Mahatera.
And of course, we are going to talk about one thing that kind of was in the spare of the moment, talking about energy orgasms. And energy orgasms are something that I am completely new to, and I thought, Tara, you'll be probably the better one to discuss how does one work.
How does one work?
Maybe we should have a little bit of background. So, me being new to the whole Tantra, lifestyle, and, I thank you for showing me this lifestyle, or at least you giving me an introduction to it. But something I never had the sensation of enjoying what is called a energy orgasm. And the background for me is I've been so used to having a ejaculatory orgasm. Basically, I rub one out, or I'll be with somebody. Yeah, I rub one out, and basically I would probably ejaculate, and that would be the end of the story. And I think my limiting threshold when I was able to ejaculate was about 4 times. But in the process of having an energy orgasm, which you introduced me to after having a lovely intimate night, it became this new frontier for me, if you will, where I had multiple orgasms within a single session. And by multiple, I mean at least there were probably like 10 happened in a single moment. It felt like somebody just shot me up in a rock, and I was like, just letting go. And I was like, and I wish I could use a movie to describe how energy orgasm would feel. But have you ever seen the movie The Fountain with what was his name? The guy who plays Wolverine.
I've never seen
Hugh Jackman.
Never seen the movie.
Oh, dude, the movie The Fountain with Hugh Jackman was insane. But I would imagine that's what energy orgasm would feel like. It would just all this energy right on your back and spine just shoot you up, and you're like, just going out there. But I would say energy orgasm is nothing that I've been familiar with since that point. I mean, having that feeling, having that trust that you helped me, embody so much with my own self, and being your hands, I felt very safe. So to have that energy orgasm, to have that release, I didn't want to stop. So it was like riding a huge energy wave, and you're just on it. You just don't want it to stop. Unlike that of you would say a conventional ejaculatory orgasm, it was over just like the fireworks show. It has to come to an end. So I would say if I can describe for myself what energy orgasm was, it was the little death that never ended. What do you think about energy orgasm exactly? How are you describing your words?
So, to me, it just feels like my heart is opening up. So it's only been a couple of years now that I've been actively working on moving energy and helping other people move energy. And it's all kind of part of that. So, you know, to me, it happens when I'm really in tune with the other person. Like we might start off by doing eye gazing or just really getting intimate and connected. And then there's this trust that gets built, and I'm feeling into what would serve them and where I don't even, I don't have like, a technique or, like some people, I've heard some people say, oh, you follow the meridians or, you do these things. And I've tried taking different workshops and different classes or techniques or something. And mine is just, for me, it's just all intuitively based. So I just really tune into somebody and then I just sense, oh, and I just let my hands go where they want to go. And I find their little points. And then I see how my partner reacts from that, right? Mm. And I see if I'm anywhere near the right spot. And then I go from there. And it helps me.
I just feel how warm your hands are right now.
And I just can feel from that, based on their reaction and my sense of their reaction, how the energy begins to kind of just move. So especially, it depends on what's happening. Like originally the technique I started practicing through a workshop I learned about giving a tantric massage, right? And a tantric massage, for me, a lot of time, it's about opening. So it can be about a lot of different things. But, if somebody's blocked in their root chakra, then you're trying to help them open their root chakra. Oftentimes, your heart chakra is not connected to your root chakra. So what you're trying to do is connect the two. And so what you're basically doing is moving energy from your root chakra to your heart to connect them. So there's like an open channel, an open flow. And then, in an ideal situation, from the base of your spine or your root chakra all the way up your spinal column and then out the back, up top of your back of your neck and then out top of your head, you're actually creating a whole column of light or a whole column of energy just flowing, so that you're directly connected to universal energy.
I noticed you were doing that actually when you helped me experience my first energy orgasms, that you were going between my root and afterwards you're pushing into my heart. And then I felt that transfer, that communication happening between the two. Mm-hmm. And, for people who are into the woo-woo kind of thing about that, I would say, quite frankly, when it comes to having an energy orgasm, I would relate it to your whole body being one giant genitalia. It's very sensitive. It's almost like if I was to describe energy orgasm right now when I thought about it, I would imagine it's like the sensation of somebody being on like ecstasy. Like your skin becomes very delicate. Yeah. Everything around you
is. You feel like the wind blowing on the little hair.
Yeah, and your whole body is vibrating.
Yeah.
And that's just this sensation of your whole body being connected and present with everything around you. It's very sensitive.
Right. And
that's why you have these, for me, that's why I have these multiple orgasms within a single fucking minute. Is because it's like everything just was hypersensitive. And that's kind of how you've articulated. You're connecting your root, or you would say, for people that don't understand that, your genitalia sensations with your heart sensations, and afterwards kind of like synchronizing those with the communication between the two. And I think when I was able to experience that connection, not just with my genitalia, but also with the beating of my heart, and synchronize those two, there was a lot of play happening, and then it spread out from that point.
Yeah. I have a question. A few minutes ago we were talking about, you wanting to push your limits, and one of your self-love practices, pushing beyond, having 2 orgasms in a session, but you actually went into 3. And I asked you if that was pleasurable, and you were like, no, not really, But then you decided to go ahead and have 4, which is interesting to me that you would choose to do that when it wasn't really pleasurable to have 3. I don't know. Maybe you were hoping that maybe 4 would be really pleasurable. I don't know. But I'm wondering, since you had talked about that, if when you experienced energy orgasms, if that is pleasurable, because it's multiples as well. You said it was multiples, right?
Mm.
So I'm just wondering if there's a difference in the pleasure sensation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me break this portion down. I think the reason why I was trying to go beyond those thresholds of leaving the pleasure and getting to a threshold of probably feeling overwhelmed and almost to the point of maybe even a pain is the kind of sensation that some people crave when they want to have the experience of, working out a muscle if it hurts so good. You know what I mean? It's kind of fucking weird, but I was like, I want to see how far I can go just to know what it feels like. And now I do know what it feels like. It's almost like working out a muscle to failure, and you kind of don't want to do that. Muscle fatigue, or kind of like somebody who probably hurts himself to the point of getting those endorphins released. It becomes a painful pleasure. And that's kind of why I wanted to go past the threshold and also see if I can do it. Because I've always heard that, some men or most men can only have about 3 ejaculate coming. And I was like, no, I'm going to go past the threshold because I want to know how it feels.
Well, plus I hope it's okay to say this. I think in your case, you actually enjoy that kind of borderline between pleasure and pain.
Yes.
So
I think a
that
lot of
makes
people do,
sense
actually.
When you describe it that way. It makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, actually.
Yeah. So back to my original question, which was, so you shared that you had in experiencing energy orgasm that it was multiples.
Yes.
Was it pleasurable?
So energy orgasm was absolutely pleasurable. Like, if I was to describe it, it was a new frontier. Like I said in the last one, it's like going on a new frontier. Like, everything is very, very new and fresh, and it's a little bit shocking because you just got thrown into this. You're like, wow, this is cool.
And is this now happening on a regular basis for you? That you're having an energy orgasm?
It happens every once in a while, and I'm glad that it happens every once in a while because I don't necessarily want to reach it every day because I want to still value it. Kind of like the whole concept of what we were talking about or what you brought up, which is called space sex or outer space sex.
Oh yeah,
outer space sex. That is kind of like, for me, an energy orgasm. At least now it's being shared with 2 people.
Yeah, it's like you're both sharing the same energy orgasm at the same moment.
Yes.
So, yeah. I would say the same thing. It's like that, yeah. And so when you have an energy orgasm, are you automatically having outer space sex?
No. Like I said, with outer space sex, the way I've interpreted it is like having an energy orgasm, but now it's being communicated not with your intimate self, and now intimately with somebody else, or maybe even multiple people. But in our case, it's only been with just 2 people, which is yourself and the other person. But I don't know, unless you haven't told me something. Anyways. But for the most part, it seems like
it's just like candid camera.
Yeah.
This is when you're gonna get all my secrets out on video.
This is exactly all your shit's out here, and everybody's gonna know. Everybody's going to know. Quite frankly, they're gonna know about mine. But that's an interesting little segue, actually. The whole concept of outer space sex and what that feels like to people. What does that look like, and what does that sound like? Because I think we've broken down the sensations and feeling of an energy orgasm. Unless you want to add more to that, I don't want to cut you off from there.
Well, I think it might be important to note that I don't particularly subscribe to the belief that you should be chasing any kind of orgasm. So, most women are familiar, or men for that matter, are familiar with the concept of clitoral orgasms, right?
Yes.
And so it's not uncommon when you find a new partner and you're learning about each other that you might find somebody who just is like going for that button, every time, chasing the button. And that may or may not be the way that an individual woman likes to express or experience her sexuality. A lot of times women's clitorises can be actually super sensitive. So spending an undue amount of time or pressure upon it, like most women don't like their actual clitoris touched directly. They like, the sides of it touched or different things, right? Anyway, I'm getting off tangent. But my point was, I think the same is true about energy orgasms. I don't think you should be chasing them. I
Yes.
think that, there are all kinds of orgasms to be had out there, especially for women.
Mm.
You can have cervical orgasms, you can have penetrative sex, you can
Mm.
have female
Mm.
ejaculation.
Well, there's one you also mentioned where you were actually getting flogged, actually, and you can actually probably get to that sensation of impact, maybe an impact orgasm, I guess you
Yeah,
would call it.
right. Which we may or may not have direct stimulation on your genitalia, right?
Mm.
So I just think that instead of instead of chasing things, maybe surrendering into your own pleasure and letting things emerge and seeing where your pleasure takes you might be a better approach. And I say this because people want to learn about new things, any new thing, it doesn't matter. So in
Mm.
this case, we're talking about energy orgasms, and they'll get very fixated on, well, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Mm.
This is how you're supposed to do it. These are, I have to do step 1, 2, 3, and I want to make sure that people know that things look different for different people. Number
It's
one.
kind of like what I was saying all the time. I'm kind of quoting Prince on this one. He actually had an interesting interview, which is what, again, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I'll even go further and say it depends on the time and the place.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, you could still be the same person, but you're just not in the mood that
Mm.
day, do whatever. Maybe you have a little cold. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? So this idea that you're chasing things, I think that's just to me, it's another distractant. It's not a word. I'm making it up.
Mm.
That instead of just being present with your partner, you know.
I just thought about something. It's funny you see all these videos out there that show people steps on how to achieve one fucking orgasm.
Yeah, there's that too, right?
Yeah.
And there's the people that can't even have haven't really figured out how to have orgasms, right?
Yeah, they go to classes, they do all sorts of stuff,
Right.
and it's like everybody's different.
Everybody's different. Like, just relax, just enjoy yourself, just enjoy your pleasure.
Mm.
Be with your partner. I think that's like far more
Mm.
important. I mean, we've discussed that because, for the most part, we have a very active, very healthy, very passionate sex life, right?
Mm.
But I don't have an orgasm every single time.
Nor do I.
And I don't think either one of us is hung up about that. And we don't spend a lot
Mm.
of time going, well, baby, how come you didn't have an orgasm?
Mm.
Although for a few minutes there, I was like, wait a minute, you've had 4 and I haven't been able to do that for you. But now I realize that you were just masturbating, so I'm okay. Yeah. I was like, oh, what do I need to do?
Oh my god. That right there alone, I feel like some people within relationships take it quite personally when I've dealt with this a number of times where I'll be with a woman and for some reason I'll help her get to her orgasm, but it's stuck in her mind that because I was able to help her get an orgasm, and when she's trying to do the same for me, she feels like she's failed in some way. And so that'll stick with her. It's like,
Or
I
sometimes
can't give you
people,
an orgasm?
or sometimes people. Well, first of all, nobody gives anybody else an orgasm.
Mm.
Let's start with that, right?
Mm.
Because it's most. Where's your biggest sexual organ?
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
So it's really about you and where you are. But I think that in our culture, that many people, not just women, I think many people have been fed and subscribed to this belief that if their partner has an orgasm, that means they're doing a good job, or that means they're sexy, or that whatever you want to say about it, right?
Mm.
And that may or may not mean any of those things. It might just be that they're on a hurry because they got to go to work, or
it could mean a lot of different things.
a billion things.
That could just mean that it's kind of like me getting an erection. That has nothing to do with you. That's sometimes when I get erection, I'm just tired.
Mm-hmm.
That's like all the things in my past I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I, set myself up for just masturbating. Like some guys will get morning wood because that is just a system and collection of stimuli that have just happened, and now that's a part of their cycle and it has nothing to do with anybody outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be a good discussion. Morning wood, the concept of morning wood.
or in your case, evening wood.
Evening wood. Evening wood. There's morning wood and there's evening wood, but they are both similar but distinctively different.
Mm.
But yeah, it's all a part of the fact that the only people that could fully take accountability for their own orgasms, it's not even really a goal, is ourselves and the connection of our body, our whole connection of our body, not just the mind, not just the heart, not just the genitalia. It has to be
Yeah.
all those things working together to
Yeah.
achieve pleasure,
Well, and I think the other thing too is
to reach pleasure. Really.
that we haven't, I don't know if we've mentioned, is communication. I mean, to me, it's all about communication. So communicating with your partner and being like, yeah, I'm complete, and that could be pre-orgasm. You might not have an orgasm, but you could feel complete.
Mm.
Um, so just communication, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah.
Knowing what you want, learning about feeling safe enough to ask for what you want, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Feeling safe enough to be like, I would like to try this situation. How do you feel about that? And vet it with your partner and negotiate, and then try it.
I think that's a good way to segue into this idea is the importance of actually exploring your sexual boundaries and going beyond those and trying to have different sensations altogether. And I think you've been good at introducing those things to me because I feel like there's a lot of pressure on men to stay in a certain barrier, a certain lane when it comes to experiencing sexual, sensations. Usually they're more so ejaculatory, and then that's kind of as far as they go. You might even go for anal sensations, and a lot of guys do not like that idea. Like, oh, you want your butthole licked? Oh no, that's gay, man. That's kind of where that conversation ends. Or even that of, do you like your nipples sucked? No, I do that for women. I don't do that for myself. And that's kind of some things that I've been able to explore, and thanks to you, it's just been, a very interesting, you would say, frontier, if you will. And there are other times that I just want to have like my neck stroked, neck stroked, kind of like almost like a loving of an adult or a mother or a father. There's something to be said about that too. But,
yeah, all that.
I feel like being a dude, especially on the heterosexual realm, you don't really allow yourself to do that because you see all your fellow heterosexual males don't really like to go down that realm, or at least they don't talk too much about it. They just talk about penetration, going down, and that's as far as you go in that realm. Energy orgasm, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also something that's feels beyond our control, right? I mean, you don't really know. It's not like 1 + 2 = 3. So then you get an energy orgasm, right? It's a subjective kind of woo-woo, thing. And so if you have a high need for control, that's going to be a little scary to try the idea of an energy, to try experimenting there. Because you got to be open to it and allow it. And when it starts, you got to keep riding it or letting it happen and not shut it down. And you don't really know where it's going.
That's the thing. You never really. That was an interesting thing about experiencing my first energy orgasm. Actually, is that you didn't tell me one existed. I felt it out, and it was such a surprise to me. So maybe there's something to it, is that you can't, like you said, expect or try to bring it out.
Right.
As some of the gurus and everybody else will say, it's like something you don't force yourself to bring it out. It's just something that is a gift in the moment. And enjoy it. Be there.
We weren't chasing it. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I felt so weird about looking at those videos of people getting energy orgasms, because I feel like, oh yeah, they have these people that can bring them up. I'm like, it doesn't seem real to me. Almost like watching a porno. It doesn't seem real. It seems like it's made up. That's probably what it was. Okay, so that's probably what it was, because, when I was showing those videos, like, do you think this is real? And probably it is for them, but I don't subscribe to that, because it seems like an energy orgasm, the way I've experienced at this point, is something you just can't bring up like an ejaculate function. It's something that it takes time, and it takes the understanding of this person's body and almost a sense of intimacy. And I don't know if I could be truly sexually intimate while a camera's on me. not in the sense of, energy orgasm, which you'll probably never see one on this channel. Sorry, folks, there is no energy orgasms to be had on this channel. Just because there's a camera and everything on, and I don't feel like we're necessarily being completely intimate in that sense. But we do our best. But you get what I mean, though, right? With the whole thing of oh my god, that felt kind of weird. Okay, there's just like some exchange there where you're just kind of staring down at me. You're just like being very quiet. I almost feel like you're looking into my.
What's going on? What's happening?
That felt weird.
What felt weird? What happened?
Like, I'm seriously not trying to overreact to it, but you're like kind of looking at me in a very seductive way, kind of like how I probably do with somebody I haven't seen in a long time, or I'm just seeing for the first time. You know what I mean? And you're just like embodying me in this like world right now. It's hypnotizing, actually.
It's hypnotizing?
Yeah, the hypnotizing
What do you
stare.
think I'm doing?
Being present. That's what I think you're doing. It's working.
Are you uncomfortable with it?
No, it's more like I know it's happening, and I feel like even the process of recording this, I'm like, I'm very quiet right now. I probably want to say something while this is happening, so to keep our audience probably nice and engaged. But in the process of this, it seems so right. You're gonna try to give me an energy orgasm on YouTube?
No, why would I do that? Why would you say that?
No, stop. Oh my god. Okay, so I think I'm like without words right now.
Why? What happened?
So
you seem a little more relaxed now. Are you okay? What happened, baby?
So I gotta ask you a question.
Yes.
Energy orgasms. In trying to help people experience them, do you think it's something that you can actively do, or is it just something that happens?
I think it is an exchange. So first of all, there's an energy exchange between two people. Okay? So both people have to be up for it. It has to be the right connection between those two people. Because you might be somebody, so I'll use myself as an example. I'm someone who I am aware of the fact that I have a very unique ability to move energy, and a lot of energy. But it doesn't work for every person, because some people are just not, we're just not on the same frequency. Maybe they're just not open to me. Maybe they're just not ready. Like, I don't know why, but I know it doesn't happen with every single person, right? But I know that with the people that have approached me or come to me for service, and they're wanting to do that, if they trust me, it's the number one thing. If they trust me, there's more of a likelihood of me allowing some sort of movement or some sort of opening. It's not always to the point of full-on energy orgasm. Rarely does somebody have an energy orgasm the first time they're on my table. That's very rare, right? But it might be the third or the fourth or the fifth or the seventh time, right? So I've shared with you that a couple of friends of mine who have appeared to me to be particularly stuck, I've invited for me to come over and have me do a massage for them, because I need to practice my skills, and I was learning at the time, and in all cases they felt a profound shift, but they didn't necessarily have an energy orgasm.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I don't. I don't experience.
Yeah. So basically,
energy orgasm with just every partner I have.
So basically, what you're saying is, yes, you can have an energy orgasm, but that takes time to develop. The trust that takes time to develop. Even the communication, not just even verbally, but just through the bodies and how they channel what energy is going in. So I get what you mean on that one now. And trying to go back to what I was, addressing is, can you do it on the fly? Well, short answer is no, you can't do it on the fly, but you can definitely practice with somebody and kind of work through that. And it takes time and it takes the trust, and more importantly, it just takes the right communication, and you can't get that with everybody. Some people take 7 times, other people probably take 2 other times, some people will never happen.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's just like any kind of orgasm, right? Like, some women only ever have a clitoral orgasm their entire life. Some women never have an orgasm. Some women learn how to have G-spot orgasms. Some, it's the same kind of thing, right?
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, just depends. And being present with yourself. I mean, when we talk about trust, we are talking about trust with your partner. We're also talking about trust with self. I mean, if you're not trusting yourself, then you're going to shut yourself down and block. Right?
I think that's a lot to be said about people who are able to fully live into their energy orgasm. For myself, it was a sense of me feeling the sensations going through my body and trusting they're going to go where they're going to go, and letting go of that.
And nothing bad's going to,
Because I'm in good hands. I feel like I'm in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, nothing bad's going to happen. You're not going to, we're not going to kill you or something. Kind of thing, yeah.
It's kind of funny, in the process of even experiencing such a thing like that, or really being into me, sometimes I felt like I was being sacrificed.
In what sense?
I don't know, some Aztec shit, put me on the mantle and just say,
Have you on the rock ledge?
Yeah.
Cut your heart out?
It's like not even that you're bringing my heart out so I can see it, actually. Which is kind of why I feel like, in some cases with the sacrifice, to me, I'm kind of taken as, I'm bringing this out of you, and you're helping, you're a part of this. You're part of this experience in the most intimate way, is that I'm bringing yourself out so you can see it. In some cases, when I had one energy orgasm, it was, I almost looked like I was going back between out of my body into my body. It was very rapid, like, and it was.
Sounds a little bit like holding up a mirror and allowing yourself to see yourself.
Yeah. And kind of back to what you were saying with having energy orgasm, both energies have to work with each other. But I think the reason why they work with each other is because they make a harmony. They make a harmony.
Resonance.
Yeah, resonance.
Yeah. So have you experienced energy orgasms more than one time now?
Yeah. At least 2 to 3 times. I'm a little bit hesitant about the third one because I think that was just ejaculatory, but.
And have you experienced energy orgasms with other partners besides myself yet?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, that'll come, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, maybe I don't know. It's kind of like what you said. It's dependent upon whether that person we already vibrate on something, whether or not we actually spend enough time to go down that realm, let us like sexually engage and touch each other and trust each other enough to get there. It's a lot. I feel like it's a lot of things that have to happen, but maybe I'm just overselling it. Because how many times have you had energy orgasm? Not how many times have you had energy orgasm with other people?
Well, I mean, because I've been kind of actively practicing for a couple of years now, it's gotten to the point where sometimes I just have energy orgasms like spontaneously. Like, you've seen me when I do that whole Kriyavati thing, kind of thing. So a lot, it's almost gotten to the point for me now where I feel like when I do experience an energy orgasm with a partner, it's not so much about it's about what am I allowing myself to experience. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I think I believe that I have the potential to be open and connected to anyone if I allowed it.
Yes, instead of holding your body is not this cage, as opposed to really just being a way of expanding.
Right.
It's a speaker. It's not a cage. It's a speaker. It's like,
right. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I've there haven't actually been that many people that I've experienced that level of intimacy with. My ex-husband for sure. Maybe two of my current lovers. And you, I mean, it's been a handful in my whole life. And I think it also depends on you as an individual. I mean, I'm making this up, but in my case, because trust is such a big deal for me, I don't think that I could experience that level of orgasm with somebody I didn't have a deep sense of trust with. I'm guessing that. And it might not even be that that's not, it might, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's entirely possible that I could, but I'm blocking that because of my belief system or my focus on trust.
Yeah, and you actually struck on another thing that I think makes for a huge discussion. Talking about the idea that everybody has their own way of getting to orgasm, but it's also dependent on your value system too. You know, what's your background? Really?
Your belief system.
Your belief system. So, for instance, I'm sure you wouldn't be a huge advocate. You're maybe a small advocate on like something like taking a flogger to the ass obsessively being like 200 like, you know, lashes. For somebody, that would probably be the pinnacle or the threshold to even reach an orgasm, maybe.
Right.
Who really knows? But for that person, their value system's probably a lot different than yours.
Well, isn't it also, I find it really fascinating and interesting. At least for me, this is what happens for me. I don't watch a lot of pornography. It just doesn't happen to be something that I'm overly into. And I have some criteria about what kind of pornography I'm willing to watch, just because of my beliefs about women and women's empowerment and things like that. Yet, one of the things that's always interesting to me, or even a little bit of a shameful thing, I guess is a good way to put it, is sometimes the things that really will get me excited in pornography are the things that I'm like, that should not excite. Like, I have a judgment about it. You know what I mean? Like, I have a belief that should not get me excited, that that's wrong, or this is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting how, as humans, we might have a belief system or a value system over here, but then how have the connections of that gotten connected to our sexuality and our sexual expression? And where do we come up with these belief systems that something is quote unquote right or wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, obviously there's some pretty clear-cut ones that most people subscribe to.
Like unconsensual versus
Yeah,
consensual.
like non-consensual or, you know, children or whatever,
Yeah.
right? But
Even for those people, it's probably not clear, and we try to figure out what's going on with that, really.
but yeah, I'm not even talking about something like that. I'm just talking about like regular, like, you know, why does it turn me on so much? The idea
Choking.
of that you like choking.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely.
So why does it turn me on so much? This idea of forced orgasm. That just
Oh, yeah.
that's like, I mean, where did that come from? You know, and what's the psychology behind that? And so anyway, again, tangenting. I'm just tangenting all the place.
No,
But
it's okay. I think this is definitely where the interests are really.
I just think it's interesting. And how does that relate to, you know, I guess maybe it goes back to your comment when you were talking about wanting to push your boundaries and your edges, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes there are things
And
that
there's
are like,
pain there. I want to know what that feels like.
they're on the edge. They're like, and I'm talking more of like an emotional edge or like a social edge, and like, oh, I'm really curious about this thing, and I can feel my body being curious, even if my mind is saying, ew, that's wrong. I can feel, I mean, it's like the first time I shared with you, the first time I ever personally visually saw a little bit of impact play. And it's not, I'm not like so naive that I didn't know it existed, but I personally had never seen it. I'd never seen it anywhere. I'd never seen it like in a video. I'd never seen it, right? And so when I actually was in a situation where I saw it, my body had its own reaction to it, regardless of what my mind was thinking, or like there was no denying that my body was curious. My body was like, hey, now what's going on over there?
We saw like, so for impact, like you're like seeing whips and people being like, doing what a lot of people would think is normal for BDSM, but if you're coming out from the outside, you're like,
right, I had never seen it, so I was like, there's this whole part of me that was like, oh, but my body was definitely interested and curious and stuff. So that I don't know if juxtaposition is the right word, that that sense of kind of dueling beliefs or something, or I don't know if it's hypocritical, like when your mind is like having an opinion or a judgment, or it should be like this, and then your body, and what happens in our culture is we're not encouraged to investigate that or to explore that. We're encouraged to go with what's right? And so then you have this whole, I mean, your body is part of you. So if you're basically shutting down your body because it's not quote unquote what's right, then where's that going? Where's all that energy going?
The short term would just be a bias. It's like a particular type of bias, but basically you have your own belief systems, and you believe that something that is going against your belief systems is now officially wrong, even though it's probably not. But it's kind of like, I think it was called like a conscious bias, but I get what you mean though. It's the sense of, oh, I've never seen this, so because I've never seen it, it makes it wrong. Yeah, because I've never seen it, it feels wrong, but quite frankly, it might not be.
Right. Right. So, I mean, how could, if you're not harming another human, another person or an animal or whatever, not harming anyone else, and you're consenting and your partner is consenting, how could anything that you choose to do together be quote unquote wrong?
Actually, there was an interesting discussion talking about what is moral and what is amoral, and what doesn't really have anything, so they put it into a category that it doesn't have a moral, so thus it can't be judged. And I was talking about the whole idea of homosexuality, or that of being lesbian or being even bi, is that because it doesn't exist in the realm of being moral, it doesn't exist. It can't be judged in the sense of being moral. It has no threshold. It can't be seen as such.
Mm-hmm.
But oh wow, not bad. It's about 42 minutes. But
yeah, a lot of stuff out there, and I don't know. I don't feel like there's a lot of support for us to come to grips with those things, that duality, to explore in a safe environment, to all of those things are aspects of ourselves. And if nothing else, we need to learn how to accept and love ourselves in all aspects. So that means not shutting things down. That means not denying things. That means not ignoring things.
I mean, the need to have sexual exploration is also the way that you can truly love yourself in a lot of different ways. And sometimes that's not with other people. Sometimes it's just with yourself. But the need to explore that sexual ability is only going to not only do good for you, but does good for everybody else around you. because you're coming at it more complete. You're coming at it more grateful for being able to know more about yourself, the truest side of yourself, instead of damming it up. You know, just doing what everybody else is doing. Trying to look at the tips that everybody else is looking at. Sometimes there might not be anything out there for you, so that pushes you to go out and find out what that is.
Well, and I think the other thing that happens is I think there's a lot of really great people out there that want to support people and help people. And I also think that anytime something kind of starts, I don't know, grabbing a little interest, there are people out there that maybe don't always have everyone's best interest in mind. And so I think it's important to know yourself and know your boundaries and know your needs and your wants and aspirations, so that you can choose wisely in the support systems that you choose for yourself. This it'd be the same thing if you go to get a new doctor. Like, you're going to check them out and make sure that they're the right doctor for you, right? Or a new psychiatrist or whatever. So, or a new masseuse. I mean, not every massage therapist is going to be the one that's right for you.
Yeah, that's right for you and your background and what's going on.
So the same thing is true if you're going to talk about, I want to address my sexuality. I want to address my blocks in my body. I want to address my physicality. I want to, I feel like there's something holding me back. There's so much of that stuff. And
a lot of people, including, probably even parts of us, we kind of we cut that off sometimes.
Or we get distracted, or the world at large gets us off tangent. It's like, this is something I actively practice, and I see clients, and I still have to sometimes go, oh, wait a minute, I need a massage, or I need to go see one of my peers and allow them to give me some support and some body work, because I get distracted by everyone else.
Maybe that's an interesting conversation to actually segue. I'm going to actually go into another conversation real quick, talking about the polyamory lifestyle and really why do individuals go and pursue something like this. Personally, for me at this point, the reason why I pursued it is because I want to know more about my sexual expression. And the reward of knowing my sexual expression is that once I'm able to dig into that, everything else gets better. My connection with my family gets better. My connection with my community gets better. And even then, even my quality of work gets better. Just that sense of feeling free in my sexual expression and feeling good and accepting about what I want and what I feel like I need. I have more of a drive to go out there and get it. So that's kind of how I describe it. I mean, what about you? Why do you think polyamory has benefited you? How do you think it's benefited you? Exactly.
So I didn't actually know about polyamory or, make an active decision that I'm going to be polyamorous or whatever. I had learned about Tantra, and I started attending the Tantra events regularly. And through that, I started meeting people that were polyamorous. And I kind of fell into dating a couple. And then I started dating several people and not having good choices and good boundaries about how I decided that. And then I learned how to make better choices. And then I started finally reading about polyamory. And trying to learn more about it, and got some friends who have years of experience doing it. And, basically, until we met, I had 3 lovers who were actively polyamorous and had been for 10 to 20 years, and so that helped a lot because I learned more and more. Even though between the 3 of them, they define it like it would be 3 different conversations.
Yeah.
And yet, I knew in those relationships that I wanted a partnership. And they were wonderful people. They're still in my life. They are wonderful people. But they were not available for, I don't know, I want to say committed, but what I'm trying to say is they were not available for more time in my life. And what I was really missing was that, like, companionship, somebody that you make dinner with, somebody that, it sounds silly, but it helps you with chores. I mean, just a partner.
Yeah, quite frankly, you're looking for something specific that can facilitate what your needs are. And that was a part of your needs.
Yeah. So I used one of the online dating apps, and I made the choice in April of this year when I decided to do that, to be very just transparent. Like, I'm non-monogamous. I believe in sacred sexuality. I'm actively seeking a partner. I was not seeking more lovers. I don't need more lovers. I mean, not that I think you have a limit, but I'm busy, so I didn't have time. I didn't feel like I had time for that. And yeah, so that's, I think, in a funny way. I mean, I guess before I was like, they call it solo poly, which meant that I was, single, but practicing polyamorous belief systems or lifestyle choices. And so it's only been a couple of months that I've been actually practicing polyamory, in a way. And neither one of us have experience really with it before, so we're learning as we go. And I think it's the whole fresh thing of, we're still fresh, we're still in the new part of our relationship, and I think it's important to both of us that we are building a solid foundation for the future. So we're not, I mean, we could be going like, all guns and, just crazy sex lifestyle, or, whatever. And some people actually looking at our relationship might think we are doing that.
A lot of them do.
But I don't feel like we are, because we're having very active conversations in the choices that we're making. And it's not a free-for-all, per se, I think some people have this misnomer idea that the polyamorous lifestyle is just like orgies every day.
Or even the orgies in general, I mean.
Orgies, just a general statement of orgies. And that's not true. And every single individual, just like in a heterosexual or a monogamous relationship, people are going to define that individually for them and their partner. In our relationship, this is what we do, right? Same thing is true about polyamory. I mean, this is what we do. And guess what? That could change 10 months from now. We're going to have another discussion, because now this is what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the things that I also gravitated when somebody introduced the concept of polyamory, was I was so afraid of the idea of surety and security when it came to having a monogamous relationship, which is why I did what I did. I hurt myself in a lot of different ways because I wanted security and surety. And I'm not saying that's an overarching issue with monogamy. I mean, to each his own. But for me personally, when it came to doing monogamy, there was so much I was doing that hurt myself to assure myself that I would be in a relationship with somebody. And quite frankly, I got so far away from my own needs and loving myself that eventually the relationship ended. Well, in the process of gaining an understanding of this polyamorous lifestyle, because I don't even consider myself to be fully poly, if you will, or whatever, but in the process of learning some of the practices and reading up on it, and also being around people who have had a lot more experience than I am in it, I'm becoming more authentic with myself. I'm becoming more interested in expressing how I feel in this moment, instead of worrying about the other person and what they'll think about me and all that. And when I get a response back from somebody, I get appreciation for expressing how I feel instead of just getting shamed about how I truly feel. And I think that, in my definition, is true love. You know, to each his own, but that's how I feel when it comes to exploring the polyamorous route. Is that I feel truly loved for my desires and wants, and knowing that in the process of that, I feel authentic. So, do you have any closing words about anything at all that you would like to tell your audience? Because I think talking about, you know, polyamory lifestyle, talking about energy orgasm, and talking about maybe even a little bit of outer space sex, we've kind of went through a few things that I think could overwhelm people. So, is there anything you would like to talk about or end before we go?
I just have a comment. I am imagining that when you are able to be authentic and feel accepted and, accepted in your authenticity, that that opens another avenue for a depth of a feeling of love. Because if you're not feeling authentic, then even if somebody's loving you, there's going to always be that sense of, well, they're not really loving me, right?
Yes.
So
They're loving something else.
right, this image that you're projecting, or whatever. And the other thing that came to mind is, no one can ever guarantee us surety or security, ever. I mean, they can try to pretend like they can, and you can try to fantasize like they can, but you really just never know. And there's nothing that prohibits you from having that same desire and or that same level of being met in that desire, just because you're choosing to be polyamorous versus monogamous. The same thing can be there. So, I don't know. I think it's about trust and honesty, and knowing that you have this level of open communication with the person that you're choosing to share with. And if things do change, that you're going to talk about it.
Yes.
And I don't know, like knowing that I imagine knowing that you've agreed to this certain level of commitment with each other, or this certain level of I've got your back and with you. So that as all the other things change throughout your life, your job changes, your family dynamics change, you lose people, new people come into your life, you might find a new lover, a lover might go, that person is still committed to this journey with you, this adventure, this life. And for me, that's the closest thing I can come to believing that I have surety and security.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I honestly believe that is probably the one thing that I think people are polyamorous, people are monogamous. I would imagine a lot of people strive for that regardless of their backgrounds. They strive for the sureties, especially when it comes to a relationship, which is why they put so much investment, is that they do want that surety. And I think they're definitely out there, no matter which route you go. But you have to be willing to go through a whole bunch of insecurity before that security comes in.
Yeah.
You have to appreciate it.
And be honest about your insecurities. I mean, we've been going through that, and it's challenging. I mean, it's hard. I like to be Superwoman. I like to pretend like there's nothing that I'm insecure about. But that's not actually true.
No, it's not. I think there's something about it. It's almost like you have to be able to enjoy both spectrums before you really know what it is. Like, if you you want a secure relationship, go through all the insecurities. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Or if you really don't want to go through insecure, well, then you can live in that realm of being secure, but it's not truly.
Well, because here's the thing: if we're willing to bear all of our scars and our insecurities and stuff, and that person is still standing with us, well, I mean, talk about authentic.
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to show you these things about myself that I don't even like, that I struggle with, and you're still by my side. You know, like that's yeah, that's like a different level and depth of love that I don't think many of us get to experience.
Not enough, at least. I would say, like, I think that's the one huge common thread behind people are polyamorous and monogamous, and we both got to enjoy a little bit of that, is that we go to find a relationship where we find some surety in something, which is why we stay around, which is why we go through the things that we go through, which is why we have the experiences, and we make those experiences that we kind of like that, we kind of want those things. The difference is, it's not even the lifestyles as opposed to what you're willing to reveal. What you're willing to reveal.
How far are you willing to surrender to yourself, to the universe, and maybe to a partner?
That's perfect. I think that's a good way of leaving off with this conversation. But of course, I'm going to go ahead and pan over to our folks over here that have been so patient enough to listen to these words of wisdom. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off. My name is Ryan Windhart, and this is
Mahatera.
and we are signing out. Peace.
Peace.